Howdy, folks. Welcome to 1.3 Systems and Connections. I hope you guys are all well. Enjoy. Just a couple notes on this one. This one is super important in regards to the rest of our units. Just know this kind of ties in everything that we're going to be talking about in future units. So I can't stress enough. Watch this one and then rewatch it and then watch it again, even throughout the course, because it's key to remember these key concepts. Okay. Also, it's going to go kind of quick. I'm breaking this up into a two-parter. So I'm going to kind of go through the slides decently quick. I would recommend pausing, and there's a few images in this one, so make sure you kind of stop and watch them. And also, as course, I've attached certain other YouTube videos to kind of help understand these concepts. So please watch them. I cannot stress that enough. All right. So we're talking about systems and connections. When we're talking about environmental science, we always come back to systems. Everything is systems. Why things happen the way they do. What the interconnected pieces. Everything together. Okay. So this is going to be absolutely key. So thinking about this, obviously we're not in classroom, so we can't discuss this, but I want you thinking about, in the back of your mind, what word do all these pictures have in common? Go ahead and pause me if you need to. Look at them, right? Really observe them. What do they all have in common? Right? We have operating systems, a stereo system, a sewage system, and a system of a down. Besides the name all having system in them, the key element is they are really, what we're getting at is they're different. They're individual pieces working together to accomplish a goal or to achieve, or they come together to do something, right? Like for a speaker system, you need maybe the MP3 player, you need the speakers, you need the subwoofers, you need the amplifier. For computer systems, you need the mouse, the keyboard, you need all these things to interact, to work, the programming, right? Same thing with sewage system, same thing with the band, right? You need the lead singer, maybe a drummer, maybe a guitarist, right? You have all these things, and they come together to form something, or to accomplish a goal. So really, we're all talking about systems today, and system is the precise word, is an assemblage of parts and the relationship forming a functioning entirety or whole. So many different parts coming together to do a function. Okay, key to know. And there's just a kind of a diagram of a system there, right? We're going to talk about so many systems. So group thought, obviously we can't be at home, but can you come up with some examples of systems? Pause it. Think of any systems you can think of. All right, let's go through them. A cell is a system. People are a system. A bicycle, a car, your home, a pond, an ocean, weather is system, right? Going back to that, nearly everything is a system. Even think of your body is a system. But not only that, your body has systems in the system, in the systems, in the systems. I'll explain. So your body all together, you have your head, your arms all work together to accomplish what you are as a human, right? But then think about your skin is a system, or your digestive tract is a system. You have your mouth, your teeth, your esophagus, your stomach acids, going further, right? But like that, they all work together to do a function. Think of your nervous system, right? Your respiratory system. There's tons of systems in there. Then not only think of that, think of the individual cells. They could technically be systems, because maybe, they have a nucleus, they have these things that work together to accomplish a goal. So it's kind of a trick question. If you ever get asked this, what of these could be a system? Really, all of them. Almost everything in this planet can be a system. It's key to remember, and we're going to consistently always come back to this, as systems have set structures. When we're looking at systems, especially in environmental science, we look at them in diagram form. All systems involve these three things. You must remember this: inputs, outputs, and processes. What this means, inputs, we have things coming in. So think about my body as a system, right? Or your body as a system. What are your inputs for your body? What keeps it growing and moving, right? Food, water, right? Nutrients, maybe vitamin D from the sun. We need a little bit of that, right? Those are inputs into your body. Then we have outputs, of course, right? We use the restroom. We're also breathing CO2 out. Those are our outputs. So things always come in a system, out a system. And then we have processes. Let's say I ate oatmeal and protein this morning, which I did, right? I eat that. Hopefully, I'm hoping that the process, it gets broken down in my body. The minerals and nutrients are used, and hopefully it goes more to making muscle rather than fat. But of course, that's a process. It's breaking it down, changing it. Sometimes it stays the same, sometimes it changes. Okay, so it's important to know that systems involve those three concepts. They have to have those. They have things interacting with them, coming in, leaving, and then processes. All right, so a tree as a system. So discuss with a partner. Obviously, you can't. This is so sad, right? What are the inputs, outputs, and processes of a tree? Think about it. Pause me. What are the inputs and outputs of a tree? Well, we have heat that is lost from the tree. So that's an output. We have heat, but that heat also goes in. So absorbs by the tree, and the tree releases that heat. That's input and output. We have light that goes into the tree. That's an input. And then we have water that evaporates from the tree. That's output. We have oxygen that leaves the tree. We have tissue and other trophic levels, right? Leaves, bark, pieces of wood fall off. That's outputs. We have water that goes in. That's an input. We have nutrients that go in. We have litter to the soil, kind of other things that fall off to soil. You can even think about humans, right? We have outputs because we have, me just scratching my skin cells are falling off, right? And then carbon dioxide goes in. That's an input. So there's many things. Everything has these inputs and outputs. We'll talk about, there's actually one system we'll talk about that does not do this. It's an interconnected where it doesn't have any inputs and outputs, but we'll discuss that in a moment. It's important. I really, really want you to watch this YouTube videos. It talks about the Gaia hypothesis. Great video, short, but it's entertaining. It's brought to you by some, good old YouTube channel, but I don't think they're around anymore. But it really talks about 1970s. James Lovelock proposed the Gaia hypothesis. The planet acts like a single biological being made up of individual and interconnected units, a system, right? He really proposed that Earth itself might be considered this living organism. Why? You have all these different things on it, interacting in it, that have these processes, inputs, outputs that are happening, that maybe together we form what is the life of Earth, right? Think of the trees, or maybe the Earth's lungs, humans. You could argue, what do we do on this planet? Maybe we're the cancer, right? Maybe we're a cancer system. Or, as I would like to be optimistic, and maybe in the future, that humans are kind of like the white blood cells. We're kind of formed here to protect it, right? We're the only species that can technically, at this point, even consider protecting it from asteroids, right? So he kind of proposed this thought process that we are all connected on this planet and living. Now, you don't have to think about, whether Earth is alive and actually understanding, but it's interesting concept to think about. Even your body, and I like that video because it really goes into that, where it talks about your body is made up of many different living cells, right? Skin cells, heart cells, many of these different cells. They're all different. They're individuals working together, right? What if they're a city? But not only that, we have billions upon billions of cells that don't even do a function. They're living on us. So is it kind of like little tiny people living on Earth? Are we, in a way, kind of an Earth being, if that makes sense, right? Go ahead and watch that video. It is a great video. I do love it. And guys, this will pop up on a quiz, so just hint it. So do watch, okay? So systems, what we're really going to talk about. Once again, in environmental science, we're going to talk about systems over and over and over again. I can't stress that enough. But the biggest one we really talk about, is the food chain. That is definitely a system we're going to discuss. And it's important to know that individual systems can be subunits of bigger systems, right? Like I talked about, your respiratory system being a system within your body system, right? Same thing for the food chain, right? We have one big system because they're working together, but then each of those individual units could be a system as well. So a food chain includes, so photosynthesis is occurring in the plant. So the plant itself is its own system. Then same thing with the zebra is its own system, and then the lion's its own system, right? But they also together form a bigger system. So we have inputs and outputs into the plant, right? You have the sun going into the plant, and then leaves fall off, or the zebra eats it. So that's the output. So the plant takes the nutrients in the sun, processes them through photosynthesis. Then there's an output, grows more tree. Then the zebra eats it, right? And the same can be said for the zebra and lion, right? The zebra eats the grass, right? It makes more zebra. It processes it in its body, and then it makes waste. So that's an output. Or its body is consumed by the lion, which then makes it into more lion, or or energy for the lion. And then there's waste, right? So there's inputs and outputs along the whole step. Now, group activity, you guys are so lucky you don't have to do this. I always make this kind of an icebreaker at the beginning of the year. But I have you, as a group, you have 5 minutes to act out the differences between these two verbs. So what I'm going to have you do is you have to make a video, probably a 5-minute video of you acting out these by yourself, okay? And then we're going to have the class watch them. So you have to dance out or act out the difference between transfer and transform. Go. No, I'm totally joking. Please don't do that. No, I'm not going to make you guys do that. That would be too embarrassing. But I did have some good groups. So you guys do get out of it due to COVID have saved you. But I want you to think about the differences. So we're talking about processes here. So we have inputs. We know what inputs are. I think you guys hopefully have a good understanding of inputs, things that go in, outputs, things that go out. Now we're talking about processes. So things that change inside. Either they stay the same, like for example, for the tree, we had heat coming in, but then heat going out. That would be considered a transfer. It means it stays the same. It's heat coming in, heat going out. It simply just goes from one place to the next. Easy. That's a transfer but doesn't change shape. Actually, right here, right? Let's just go through this. But transfer is when flow of energy or matter does not involve a change of form and state. It doesn't change, right? There is normally a change of location. Same thing with water. A tree takes up water. Maybe it evaporates from the leaves. It stays water throughout that process. Now, so example would be throwing an object across the room. I have a ball. I throw it across the room, so it does move, but the ball does not change in the going from my hand to the other side of the room, right? Transformation, on the other hand, when a flow of energy or matter involves a change of state. So let's say I had the ball, I threw it. While I was throwing, the ball turns into a brick. Then it lands in the room. That is a transformation. It's moving from one place to another, but then it's also changing the state of energy or matter in it. Bouncing a heated, so the example they gave was bouncing. So let's say you have a hot ball, you warmed it up and you throw it, but it loses that heat and then it goes to the other side of the room, cooler. Well, it's technically a changed ball, right? What am I doing? Okay. Flows and storages. So flows are the inputs and outputs and processes. Storage is where something stays. So all systems diagrams will have flows and storages. It's important to know that this is also there. Let me go back real quick. I just want to state a couple of things. So in this, I think even going back a little bit further, boom, boom. All systems have inputs, outputs, and processes, right? We talked about that. All systems diagrams should have those. Now, when we get to transform and transfer, they don't always necessarily have one. They usually have one or the other or both of them. Very simple. You can have energy coming in, energy going out, or a process happening in. So it'll at least have one of these, if not both of them. So neither of these are required for a system. But so there is some sort of process going on, but it has to be at least one of these, if not multiple of these. Okay. We talked about that. Now, systems diagrams will have flows and storages. All of them will, right? Both energy and matter flow. Inputs and outputs are flows, and they're represented by a kind of an arrow in a systems diagram. I'll go back for that as well. You can see the flows here in this diagram. They are the red arrows. They're kind of pointing where the flow of the energy goes. So those are, if I can't get their flows, they're called flows, inputs and outputs. Then there's stores, which are kind of where the energy stays for a brief moment, and then it might leave or go somewhere else through an ecosystem. So stocks, those are called stores or stocks within an ecosystem. So in using this photo again, where are the stores? Well, technically, sometimes you see it represented by a box, but in this case, you see it represented by an image of a zebra. That's where energy is stored. There's a process, then it flows to the next. Then the line is a store, it processes, then it might go to the next. So that's considered the store in that one. Okay, hopefully I'm not confusing you. So energy flows from one compartment to another, but when one organism eats another, the energy is then formed as a stored chemical energy, flesh, right? Same thing, think about me or yourself. If you eat a piece of pizza, you're having that energy go into your body, right? The input, it's a flow, but then my body processes it, turns it into either fat or muscle. That's a temporary store. And then maybe I'll go running or jogging or lifting weights, and that energy will be lost by heat or just energy expenditure. That's an output, right? So we know our flows, which is the eating and leaving of the heat, and the stock is my body kind of changing it and moving it around, right? I was going to give you an example, but I think it just add confusion. So energy flow and flow of matter through an ecosystem. It's important to kind of look at, looking at how flows are maybe used. I want you to look at this diagram. Inputs and outputs are called flows, right? And they're represented by arrows. The stock's held in called storage and is represented by boxes. That's how often system diagrams will look, just like this. If you think about it, this is the exact same image as this one. We have the plant, the zebra, and the line. It just looks slightly different. Instead of the actual animals, we're using boxes instead. So it can look in different routes, right? So now in regards to this diagram, I want you to think, which color of arrow represents energy flow? Notice they're both flows. Which one would represent energy flow? Hopefully you said red, right? Red is a heat flow, or it's an energy. Heat is energy, so red represents energy flow. On this one, what is blue? Blue represents flow of matter, right? We have consuming of maybe flesh, and then it goes to the next animal along the line. So blue is represented in this diagram as matter. Yes, I think that just kind of states that. Okay, so that is, kind of going back. This is just one systems diagram we'll look at, and it'll look like that one, and it'll also look like this, right? They're the same thing, but just represented differently. We also will talk extensively about carbon system, right? Energy flows throughout a system. The carbon cycle, as we call it, right? Energy flows through a system in the form of carbon to carbon bonds within organic compounds, right? So what different forms does carbon take in the carbon cycle, if you can see this? So what different forms does carbon take, right? This is a picture of the carbon cycle. Where are the flows? Where are the stores? You should kind of be noticing that, right? Well, carbon is stored in the ocean. Carbon is stored as coal, oil, and gas. Then carbon is stored in trees. These are all the stores. So we will talk extensively about the carbon cycle. It's important to know that, this is what the system looks like. We'll also be discussing the matter cycles around the systems of minerals. We'll be talking about the phosphate cycle and how that goes. So take a quick look at this diagram. Where are the flows? Where are the stores in this picture, right? It's important to kind of start perceiving these things. I would honestly look at all these and kind of, pause me within them. And that is it, ladies and gentlemen. Look at that. Not too long, but extensive one. I would highly, highly recommend really understanding the concepts in this one. If you have any questions, please ask. That is it today, and then just any reading that you need to do. But that is the beginning part of systems and systems diagrams and energy flows, inputs, outputs, and stores and processes. Okay, please have a good day. Enjoy, and we will talk soon.